Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, we're starting the last 10 days of Ramadan. I know there's a slight difference. For some people, it's the 20th. Alhamdulillah. I wanted to, again, bring this dua to the forefront after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima kathira. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقنا توفيق الصالحين اللهم سهل علينا معرفتك يا أرحم الراحمين وتقبل منا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. This hadith which Imam Ahmad relates, I think it's an extremely important dua for a number of reasons. One, the Prophet ﷺ said in the riwayah that Imam Ahmad relates is that anybody who hears it should learn it. So that in itself is justification enough to learn the dua. But it's also prefaced by a statement that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is suffering from depression should recite this. And if they recite it sincerely, then inshallah the depression will be removed. So this is an antidepressant dua. And I think there's a secret in that it's a dua of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the Quran the spring of your heart, because the Quran will bring the heart back to life. Inna Allah yahyi al-arda ba'da mawtiha. Allah brings the earth back to life after it's dead. And the Quran it has the bushra. I mean, one of the reasons why the news is so depressing is because the good news that the prophets bring would not have the type of impact that it would have if everything was good news. If it was all good news, then what really is the bushra of the prophets? Their bushra is that this abode is a trial and tribulation for a short time. And then after that, for those who pass the test, it's bushra, it's a good news. And so for people that live in the light of that truth, the world is not going to bring them down in the way that it will bring down other people, because the world really is designed to break hearts. It's designed to wear people down. That's the nature of the abode. And if you accept that truth, then you'll really appreciate the good times that you have. You'll really be grateful for those times that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intersperses between the tribulations to keep you going. Because if it was all tribulation, people couldn't handle it. So this dua is very important. Allahumma inni abduka wa ibnu abdika wa ibnu amatika nasiyati biyadika madan fiya hukmuka adrun fiya qada'uka as'aluka bikulli ismin huwa laka sammayta bihi nafsak aw anzaltuhu fi kitabika aw 'allamtuhu ahadan min khalqika أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن ربيع قلبي ونور صدري وجلاء حزني, and in a riwayah جلاء حزني وذهاب همي. So may Allah answer that prayer. I wanted just to look at a few of the hadiths. They're very strong hadiths about these last 10 days. Aisha radiallahu anhu relates that the Prophet ﷺ said, Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Prophet ﷺ, Kana Rasulullah, إِذَا دَخَلَ الْعَشْرَ الْأَوَاخِرِ, when the last 10 nights min Ramadan, from Ramadan, entered, أَحْيَا اللَّيْلِ, then he would bring the night to life. And remember that most of his nights in the normal year were brought to life. So the fact that she's saying this about these nights is very strong. وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ, so he also woke his family up, because قُوَ أَنفُسُكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا, save yourselves and your families. So we have an obligation also to wake our families up. وَجَدَّ وَشَدَّ الْمَأْزَارِ, and he was very, very serious during this time. وَشَدَّ الْمَأْزَارِ means he tightened up his loincloth. In other words, the izar, what they call lungi in India, which was one of the prophetic raiments. The Prophet ﷺ wore a lungi. So shadd al-ma'zar, he bound it up. So he was very serious during this time. I mean, that's obviously a kinaya for he wasn't with the women. So عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن رجالا من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أروا ليلة القدر. So they were shown ليلة القدر في المنام. So they had a vision. This is a ru'ya, which is different from a dream. A vision is a true event that occurs. The Prophet ﷺ said it's 146 of prophecy. It's that aspect of prophecy that every human being, even a disbeliever, can have access to this. Like the Pharaoh who had a true dream. So, في السبع الأواخر, in the last 7 nights. So you're going to see 7 and 10. You'll see some different views. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرى رؤياكم قد تواطأت في السبع الأواخر. So what he means there is that all these different people had the same vision. So that's the tawaṭa'at. They coincided in those 7 last days. فَمَنْ كَانَ مُتَحَرِّيهَا فَلْيَتَحَرَّهَا فِي السَّبْعِ الْأَوَاخِرِ. So that's in Imam al-Bukhari's. So especially those last 7 days, although all 10 are important, obviously the 25th, the 27th, and the 29th are very strong days. And the ulama differ about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ. So that Layla Mubarakah, which is in Surah Al-Dukhan, is considered to be Laylat al-Qadr. Some say it's Nusf Sha'ban, which is another big night. There's a khilaf about Nusf Sha'ban, but historically it's been practiced. It's interesting that the Maliki school, traditionally, it was not practiced, but the Malikis themselves ended up doing it. So it's practiced all over the Maliki countries. In the South Asian culture, it's very strong. And it was the opinion of many of the great scholars that it was a good night, it was a blessed night to do ihya of. There's certain people that see it that it wasn't strong or there wasn't validity to it. Those are the khilafat in the rahmah of Allah, and it's very important for people not to make inkar of other people that are doing these practices. But these are firmly established practices in the Muslim community. So Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu said, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, قال من قام ليلة القدر إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. So whoever will stand in prayer on the Laylat al-Qadr out of faith, in belief, with faith, will also ihtisaban, in other words, yahtasibu عند Allah, that they're really trusting that Allah is going to reward them. So they're reckoning with their Lord that He's going to reward them for that. So they're doing it with that intention, that Allah is going to respond to their worship. غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. It's forgiven all the things that preceded. Obviously, generally with these, it's the sagha'ir, what are called the venial sins, the lesser sins, not the major sins, the enormities. You need tawbah specifically. So the 7 mubiqat, things like that. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها. Again, she said, this is another hadith, but reiterating that Imam Muslim relates. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتهد في رمضان ما لا يجتهد في غيره وفي العشر الأواخر منه ما لا يجتهد في غيره. So he did ijtihad in Ramadan, and remember, the Prophet was in constant dhikr. He was constantly with Allah. So in Ramadan it was even more intense, but then in the last 10 days it was even intensified.